City Matters.
Hello, and thank you for joining me today. I'm your host, Peter Suchmann, and on today's episode of Kindest People, Kindest People on HMTV, my special guest, Larry Gochman, will join me for a conversation about his childhood experiences in what was Poland at the time, but is now Belarus, and the resistance and his experiences as a child during the Holocaust. Larry, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I'd like to just start the conversation is you're here visiting during Pesach. You're 97 years old and
Yes.
You look fantastic. You sound fantastic. I can't wait to hear the stories of your life.
Thank you. I'll be happy to talk to you.
So let's start with your childhood memories. What do you remember from your earliest childhood?
From before the war or
Sure.
during the war?
Before. Let's start with before.
Before the war. We're always looking to have fun, to go swimming, to do this, because we're very happy people. We're nice. I enjoyed playing games with my friends, going into the wooded areas, taking out the cow, watching the cows go into the field. We owned a cow and some chickens in the backyard. So it was always something to do. Mother always made sure that I had something to do.
Yeah, so those were good times.
It was good time.
Yes.
It was just wanted to grow up faster so I can be so that we can, be with the, or like I used to say with how my older brothers and sisters were behaving themselves. I wanted to be like them.
Got it. And you had a big family?
I had a big family. We were 5 children, yes.
And your parents, they were farmers?
No, my father was a tailor.
A tailor.
Okay, and sort of a prominent tailor in Kazan. Okay, it was a beautiful small town, Kazan, very friendly town. I had 2 uncles in town. Okay, and they owned stores, so I used to go there. I used to get candy. If I go to bring some hay to the horse or bring some hay to the cow. Even when I was small, I always liked to touch the horse or touch the cows.
Sure.
I was always friendly with the animals.
Right.
I like horses.
Would you say it was a Jewish town?
Yes.
So you went to school in a Jewish school?
I went to Tarbut school. They called it Tarbut school.
Tarbut school.
Okay, it was a Yiddish school.
Good.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you didn't behave yourself, you got it.
Yeah,
You used to say, hold your hand out and gave you with a ruler.
Wow.
If you behaved yourself good, gave you a patch on the cup and said, oh.
I understand that. And when did life start to change for you?
When the war started, when Germany invaded our area,
Right.
okay, and the Russians resisted in our town,
Right.
okay, they dug in artillery and they knocked out some of the German tanks. So everybody had to hide wherever we can find. We had an ice cellar.
Right.
Okay, so we all had to run into the ice cellar because all the shooting was going on.
And how old were you at that time?
I was about 12 years old.
12 years old.
11 and a half, 12 years old.
Right.
You would think it was like a movie, but it was not. It was real.
It was real.
Yeah. So after the fighting was over, but the next day, the Germans retreated, and the Russians retreated.
Right.
They kept moving back. So memories is of important to me or not. When the Russians invaded us, they had horses were pulling their artillery pieces with like 10 or 20 horses pulling one big thing.
Sure.
And there was day and night, maybe for a month, moving forwards towards Poland. Okay. When they retreated, we felt so terrible. There was just people running back. It was like I never seen in a movie even about how terrible they retreated.
Right.
And my father, as a retired soldier, sort of, he was a soldier during the World War I.
Right.
He couldn't understand why everybody is running without, as a unit, you just to hear if a vehicle you see in a truck going by with no rubber on it, just riding on the metal thing. So it was very sad.
Yeah.
Okay. It went by, time went by within months until the Germans moved in to our town and set up a police station, and the rabbi in shul talking about, the rabbi kept insisting we have to stay together, not to separate ourselves. Don't get involved in it, don't do anything bad because they'll kill you.
Yeah.
Okay. My father was the opposite. He says, if they come, and if you know they're coming to kill you, fight back.
Right.
Don't let them take you unless you have a chance to fight back. And the only chance you have is be prepared before they come.
Sure.
So that's the type of family we were, okay? And most of the families.
Did you have weapons?
No, we had an axe.
You had axes. Okay.
Yeah. Axe handles and things like that.
Yeah.
We didn't have no guns yet.
Yeah.
Okay. When the Germans decided to take us into a major ghetto, that's the time everyone in shul, everyone decided what we're going to do. So our group, we were like about 15 families or 20 families, decided we're going to go into the forest.
Right.
Okay. The other side decided they're going to go to the ghetto. Okay.
So these stories seem to be lost in history.
As being, everyone had to carry a big package on their shoulders with whatever mother put together, dry bread, things like that. And we thought this was going to be for a month or so.
Sure.
Okay. But it never happened because the Russians never are able to counterattack.
Right.
Okay. So the older people separated from the older people because the partisans didn't want to have older people. Okay. So my father and mother and me and my younger brother were not allowed to be in the fighting units.
Mm.
So my sister, my brother, my brother-in-law, and my other sister, they all were into fighting units.
Wow.
Okay.
How was that decision made? Who decided who was fight and who would not fight?
They told everybody. It's just, okay, no one sent out papers for that.
Right.
It just between conversation.
They made their own decisions.
We had no we had no phones or communication like we have now.
Right.
Okay. So it was like, didn't have to say much. One passed the word around to the others. Okay. So all the families we were in a separate area. But before, when we left for the forest, we found a place where the wood people that come in the forest to cut trees, they have a place like a camping place. Right. So we stayed in there at that time. So we had a roof over our head. Everything was right. So suddenly, the Germans came. And we had the partisans, at that time, they were already organized. One had a rifle, one had this. They didn't have much. And the Germans came with tanks and all. So run.
Yeah.
So we all decided that we got to get into the woods. Otherwise, we're all going to get slaughtered.
Sure.
So we ran deep into the forest. And the Germans did not go yet. They did not. Apparently, the infantry did not come or whatever. It did not come after us yet.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in the afternoon, and it got very cold. So we made a fire. No, we were maybe about 40 some people trying to stay warm. Suddenly, the machine guns, they surrounded us.
Oh, boy.
And everybody took off into different areas. I didn't. My father went this way, mother went this way. Everybody like
that must have been terrifying.
Totally disorganized, sort of. Okay.
Yeah.
Because we were not trained for that.
Sure.
At that time, because this was the first time that we were caught with the machine guns over your head.
Yeah.
That was the most saddest part of the first time, because we had to hide ourselves in the swamps, because we have swampy areas, and we ran into the swampy areas and we dug ourselves in, put bush things over our head, and lay there. And they said, "Don't talk, don't breathe, don't do nothing. If you hear people walking, they're not us; it's them."
Yeah.
It took a few days, and they seemed to be retreated. And we start crawling out of our nests when we were laying in the water. Some people couldn't come out because their feet or whatever they were. But we start whistling. I'm a very good, at that time already, I was very good at those things. And we got together, and we lost, our first cousin, we lost like 5 or 6 people. Those that did not cover themselves.
Right.
Okay. So they did not kill him. They took them with them. They captured them. Okay. So we retreated, and so at that particular time, it was a growing sort of getting used to the forest, but we lost most of the things that we took with us.
Sure.
Because everything we had, they burned everything. And the people that couldn't walk, they killed. My best friend's mother she was not feeling good at that time, or she didn't want to go into the forest, so she hid herself underneath the bed, and we put things over her, and apparently she was making noise, and so that's growing up. So you learn to be afraid.
Sure.
As was growing up, I was always, like I was mentioned before, I always enjoyed in the forest, in the wooded area, hiding, doing things with my friends.
As any child would.
Even
sure.
though when I was 11, 12 years old,
Yeah.
my father let me do things like that.
Right.
He was busy enough in them. I always came home to eat. So it was difficult at that time.
Yeah.
It was very
The
difficult.
woods became a very different experience for you. It's terrifying.
So we had to go deeper into the woods. The winter was approaching. And my older brother and my brother-in-law went out from the forest to he knew some people in nearby villages, and they gave them some clothing for us to put on, okay? And we built little things out of pine needles, and we made the call it a budka, okay? And we stayed together, okay? At that time, the Germans did not stay. They kept going to the front line because they thought they got rid of us, but I guess they did. We were able to survive.
Right.
And sort of God provided cover for us. We were able to, I'm I'm not too comfortable with sitting here, okay? I'm sorry, I'm moving.
That's okay.
But we were able to find a way around, okay? So my mother and father did not go anywhere. They used to stay by. They made fires to be able to make. They brought a pot, the kind that you can put hanging on the fireplace, and whatever they gave, whatever we were able to bring with us, and whatever we can find food.
Right.
She used to concoct some sort of food to be able to eat.
Right.
And as we kept going, we learned how to get around be able to do things like that. Okay. I was already 13 years old at that time, and they told me, "You're a man now, and you can go out on your own if you want to." Okay.
Were you able to have any kind of bar mitzvah at that time?
We had the bar mitzvah right there.
Good. In the woods.
Just like we had after the guys davened, but we had no books or nothing. Sure. Okay. Sure. So Baltoras, we had a few people with us, so they knew all the words.
Right.
I had another friend, my same age with me, and my brother-in-law, he still stayed with us, okay? And we used to go out of the woods. How we found ourselves, because we were deep in, like maybe like hours of walking to get outside.
Right.
Okay. But we somehow or another we learned how to behave ourselves in the woods, because when I was young, before the war, I was going with other people, and they told us how to behave yourself in the forest.
Sure.
So this is for, you look at the tree, this side is for north, and this side is, the sun goes up here, the leaves turn this way, it comes back to you. And I was able to be able to find my way back. Mm-hmm. And I always felt that God is helping me with that.
Sure. How much time went by while you were in the woods?
I was in the woods 2.5 years.
2.5 years. Wow.
With the weather, 35 below zero.
Oh, wow.
The winters was unbelievable.
Yeah. And tell us about what happened after 2.5 years. What happened next? When the Russians were advancing, right,
pushing the Germans back, okay, the Germans did not go back easily like the Russians were flying. They were fighting. And so us being in the woods, we knew that it was, the earth was shaking.
Sure.
From the artillery and from the airplanes and from everything. It was like, at night, you see 50, 60 planes going towards Germany.
Wow.
In the beginning, they used to go towards Russia.
Sure.
So, and you can even tell by the sound of it if it's the friendly ones or non-friendly ones.
Wow.
That's the type of, you lay down along a stream of the river, and you put your head onto the ground, and you can hear things more clearer, because the forest is very, very quiet.
Sure.
You only hear a bird or things like that, but outside, you can hear a vehicle from 5 miles away from the noise from the motors.
Right.
So, you asked me that question, I will tell you. Okay. So when it got cleared, at that particular time, the Partisans probably owned most of the area already, because we got rid of all the German stations, and the Partisan was big already. We were like 5 companies, okay, and they had better weapons because we were the Russians dropped weapons to us. Okay. So we cleared the whole area. So but when the fight started, for some reason or other, it's always in our area because the rivers, the way they cross. So it's a perfect place to put up a defense. So the Germans tried to hold back the Russians. Okay? But we, as the partisan, we blew up all the bridges. There was no bridges for them, so it went much easier. So the Russians advanced.
Right.
All the partisans, my brother, everybody had to go automatically into the army.
Right.
Most of the partisans died within weeks.
Yeah.
That ones that stayed with the army. But that's how my Yiddish cup. Okay. You know your way around.
Yeah.
So you run away.
Yeah.
Okay. After you get wounded, you feel lucky enough, like my brother was wounded badly. He just rolled off into a canal and waited for some, like a farmer to walk by or something like that. They picked him up and drove him back home. Because it's that kind of life. Okay.
I want to stop you for a second.
Yes.
We're running short on time.
Okay.
Can you tell me a little bit about this group, Holocaust Heroes?
Okay.
It sounds fascinating.
We're a group of survivors, okay,
Right.
from all parts of from Poland, Romania, from Germany, a lot of people from Germany, but most of them are now that never were age-wise, because those that were involved in the concentration camps, they were already too old. Okay, so they get together, they entertain us. They invite us. They make lunches for us or dinners. They bring in music and try to give us a good time. Okay,
And to keep the stories of the resistance alive,
okay.
so
And
the world knows.
those that can talk.
Yeah.
Talk.
And you talk.
Okay.
And you talk. And you talk beautifully.
Okay, it's because you see, 15, 20, everybody's there, and a lot of them don't want to talk.
Right.
It's very hard to talk about it
Yeah.
because there are instances in my life that is very hard to describe.
I understand.
And I'd rather not, because if I do, then it can take me a week or two to leave me alone.
Sure. Sure.
Okay?
But before we run out of time, the Jews never had a homeland until 1948, until Israel came about. Tell us what that means to you today.
It is, like my father would say, when Israel was starting to, most of the partisans that stayed alive went to Israel before it became a state of Israel. Mm-hmm. So we had a chance to fight for Israel. And before that, in 1932 or 33, half the Jewish young people went to Israel before the wars.
Right.
Okay. So we had relatives, sort of, but they were all on the kibbutzim, so they went in there. But there's a feeling about this. We couldn't believe it, that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
We couldn't believe it. And when it did happen, it was like a miracle. It was a miracle.
Yes.
A miracle. After thousands of years, we finally achieved a state, a country that no one wants us.
Right.
Now we have a place, God forbid, as Jews know better. It's something that we have to pray every day. Say thank God that we were able to achieve something like that.
Yeah.
We have a lot of wonderful people that were able to do it.
Right.
Physically, mentally, financially, in all other ways. They finally got together. And it's very important because we're just as good as anybody else.
Of course, of course.
We're
of
people.
Course. Yes.
Well, why can't we live together normally?
Yeah, good question. Good question. Before we sign off, you mentioned before an organization called Live to Tell. Can we just put that out there? Live to Tell. What is that organization?
It is the same as the Holocaust survivors.
Okay.
Because occasionally we get together.
Right.
Because we're not there. We're in Boca.
Right.
That one is in Boca.
I see.
So, and the other one is in Palm Beach area.
Okay.
And a lot of schools want us to go and want to hear my life story.
Yeah.
Okay. Some want to know how I able to come out of nowheres and be able to achieve my life here in the United States, how it felt being as a refugee,
sure,
and how it was able to come. And I think it's people could. I've had to fight for that.
I know. I understand.
I was in the Army.
Yeah.
During the Korean War, I was in the Army. And I was a very happy person being in the Army because I was able to do something for America.
Good.
Okay.
On that note, Larry, I want to thank you so much for coming today, to speaking to us about your life story, your struggles, your victories, and please keep telling your story. It's an amazingly important facet of our society right now that these stories continue. Now, our podcast will go out to 20, 30,000 people that will be inspired by your stories today. So I thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to thank you all for tuning into this episode of Kindest People, Kindest People on HMTV. I appreciate my guest Larry Gochman for sharing some insights on his childhood growing up and being a child of the Holocaust. Be sure to subscribe, share, and stay connected for more engaging conversations. Until next time, take care and be well.